What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another training today. I even got my nose strip on so that way I can breathe properly so we can really dive in. Today, I'm going to share with you the higher mind, how to tap in and use your higher mind if you want to manifest, if you want to accomplish certain goals, if you want to let go of suffering, if you're dealing with a lot of pain where you notice that you get affected a lot by other people or events or situations and you're just really struggling in this life. This is going to be the training for you. How to use your higher mind. Let's dive into the whiteboard. All right, how to use your higher mind, the ultimate cheat code to living a much better life. So, what do I mean when it comes to your animal mind, your higher mind, etc.? Here's the whole idea behind it. And you're really going to want to stay to the end so that way things can really click for you. So, think of it as so. You are a soul. You're not a human with a soul, you are a soul having a human experience. You are a soul. And then you embody into this human experience. And as a human, I mean, we are part animal, right? You look around at your dogs, you look around at how other animals function, like you can relate to that. There is a part of you, there is this piece of you that's an animal. Most of us don't realize how much though of that animal side is in control of our lives. So we have this animal mind. And this is like what you'll often hear spiritual teachers talk about is humans are the masters of limitation. Because if you think about your soul, you're the most connected to source, right? Oneness, all that is, everything, all is one, one is all, which means you're absolutely limitless. You are connected to all that is, right? And then you have this illusion of separation. We have this illusion of separation, and we have these souls, and we have these human experiences, so we can learn, we can expand, we can grow. And just imagine, though, your human self in this 3D world, living this life, how much more limited you are than your soul, than consciousness or source itself. Much more limited. So we have the animal mind, we have the soul. And in the middle, we have what we're going to talk about today is a higher mind. All right. So the higher mind would then be most connected to your soul. So how does this really look though when we break it down? So I want you to think of it like this. Let's say here is a person, and we're going to put a split right down the middle. Okay, let's put that in orange. Okay. And then on this side is your animal mind, we'll say M. And on this side is your higher mind. Okay. So the animal mind, what does it want? It wants safety, wants security. It wants to survive. It's a lot of it is rooted in fear and limits. It's more closed off. That's the animal mind. So think of it like this. There's this common story about how these cavemen were stuck in the cave and they lived their entire lives and their families and it was passed down and they all lived in the cave and they never left the cave. Then one day a couple cavemen actually entered out into the world and they experienced the world. And they came back into the cave and said, "Guys, like what's going on? Like there's so much more. You got to come out of the cave." And the ones who stay in the cave though, they're the ones who are giving into that animal mind where it's like this doesn't suit the program. I want safety, security, survival, and we have these fears. A lot of us live off these fears, right? We live in these fear-based states, and we're more closed off. Which is really interesting because if you know anything about how the body and the human body functions, is that when you are in a fear-based state, when your nervous system is rattled up, when you're in a fear-based state, you actually don't even have creative thought. You can't have creative thought. It's more so brain fog. It's more so shut off, which is very interesting. So that's kind of the animal mind. And we'll say the animal mind, at least in this day and age right now, for us as people, most of our world right now is what we would call in the masculine energy. Now, this is the law of polarity, where it's like, for example, temperature. Hot and cold is just labels that we put as humans, but at the end of the day, it's just the same thing, right? It's just temperature. So we have the masculine energy versus the feminine energy. So in today's world, you can see that it's mostly masculine energy dominated, which means with safety, security, survival, fear, limits, right? This means that we're more so in our logic mind, right? We more so need control, comes with that. We more so need control, we need logic. I think you get what I mean. Force, we'll say. All right. So that is kind of the state that we're in right now in this world. Now, then we have the higher mind. The higher mind, oh, I'm gonna get in the way of that. But the higher mind, we'll say, is the one most connected to soul. This is where you tap into, hope I'm spelling this right. Spelling was never my best trait, best skill. Higher mind is intuition. Your higher mind is flow. We follow your passions, follow your love. It's the, I forget the word, so I'm just going to call it the extra senses. So animal mind uses the five senses. But you know how, like, as a mom, if you're a mom or if you have kids or if you have a mom, everybody has a, everyone has a mom if you're alive, right? Somewhere, somehow. You know how moms, like, sometimes your kids can, or you might have gotten hurt and your mom instantly knew? Or if you're a mother, like, you just kind of have that gut feeling. That is it right there. Those are your extra senses, right? And this is also syncs, as in synchronicities take place in life. So these are examples of more so the higher mind. Now, you could say the higher mind is more so a feminine. I hope I'm spelling that right as well. Feminine energy. Again, English, even though I am English, English was one of my worst classes in school. Feminine energy, we'll say, is the higher mind. Now, here's the key, though, is, oftentimes what a big problem I notice that happens with a lot of people on their spiritual journeys is they try to go too far off on the deep end with the spiritual side. But here's the thing is that you are a human, you're having the human experience. You want to be involved in the human experience. For example, like, a lot of people believe that one of the most spiritual paths you can take is just go meditate your entire life. But it's like, does that make sense as the animal part of you, the human you really are? Do you see any other animals on the earth doing that? No, right? A part of the human experience is getting out in the world and having human experience. So that is kind of the split there is our animal mind versus the higher mind. Okay, so the let me explain it like this. So most of us, what happens when it comes to our animal brains is, again, we live in this masculine kind of energy world. So the way that we're brought up is all about, and this is why I believe too that, like, spirituality is the root of all and science has to catch up. But I believe that one of the problems with science is that it has to come from a controlled standpoint. But some things, when it comes to, for example, like manifesting, some things you have to let go of the how or when in order to get what it is that you want. So that's another part we'll put in for the higher mind is that you let go of how and when. Okay? So you let go of the how and when. But the animal mind, again, the animal mind always wants control, but it bites us in the butt. And I'm going to explain to you why. And if you've seen my recent trainings, you'll know in a deep understanding of why. But that's the difference, right? So animal mind uses the five senses, okay? It goes off safety, security, survival, and it allows its limiting beliefs and programs to then shape how it perceives the world, how it goes out into the world, how it acts in the world, what it does in the world. Okay. And it's always trying to grip onto control. So this is kind of also where you allow your ego to really run the show and grip onto as well. All right. So that is the masculine or the animal side. The higher mind, because I do believe the higher mind's a mix of the feminine and the masculine, but we'll say the higher mind, the other side, is where you're more so trusting in your own intuition. You trust in your gut feelings. You get into alignment. Okay, so it's a hot word nowadays. You get into alignment. All right, you get into alignment with who you really are, who you really want to be. Okay, and this is where you notice the synchronicities taking place in your life. You have a higher, expanded perspective on things because, again, you are more connected to your actual soul. So you have intuition, you follow your flow, you let go of the how or when, you let go of control of what's not meant to be yours to be controlled. You follow your passions in love, right? You trust in that. You have more of that creative side to you. That is all what we call as people when we put these labels and words to things is the feminine side of you, the feminine energy side. So you have those extra, we'll say, senses. Now, breaking it down, how does it work when it comes to science? Right? Because one thing for me is like I do and this is actually one of the trickiest parts when you are falling in your path is there's a part where you have to let go of control, where you really have to step into the unknown. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people have a hard time doing that. They need specific results instantly. And that's actually one of the reasons why so many people stay stuck in their lives and don't ever really change. And it's why the ones who we look up to and listen to on the movies and the screens, they're telling us the same stuff that I'm telling you right now. Take the leap of faith, right? Follow your dreams. Do what it takes. Trust in yourself. They're all basically saying tap into your higher mind because your animal mind cannot tap into that because your animal mind doesn't care about that. Your animal mind wants you to stay safe and secure. Your animal mind is trying to get through the week. It's trying to make sure that you are just surviving. The higher mind wants to thrive. It wants to learn. It wants to grow and it wants to expand. But what we can't do that though when we're stuck in the animal brain. And here's why. So I'm just going to do a quick little mini class on this because I made an entire class on this just the other day on my YouTube. So we'll say this is the world, right? This is this is you. Now, perceive, how you perceive the world, how you define events, how you give meaning to events, okay? And what you focus on, what you look for, all comes down to, okay? So it's like I'm looking out into the world. This is all connected to your core beliefs, your ego slash your identity, and we'll say your fears as well. So up until like at the age of 7 years old, up until about the age of 7, you have what we would call mirroring neurons. And what this means is that you're basically a open sponge. You're an open mind. So think of it like this. So up until the age of 7, your mind, okay, here is you, okay? So 7-year-old you is right there, and your mind is completely open. And what you're doing is you're creating a sense of self, an understanding in this world, who you are and how you function. So oftentimes a lot of beliefs, fears are programmed into you because think of it, when you're a baby, you're just in the moment, you're playing, you're having fun, you're following your highest joys, right? But then there's also that animal part of you that is like, well, I need to survive here, so I need to learn, what gives my mom and dad attention. How do I fit in with the tribe? Because remember, back in the day when we're like very animalistic, if you couldn't fit in the tribe, if you spoke up too loud and the tribe leader didn't like that, you're out. And then if you're out, that means you're dead. That is still in you. Like that has been in us for thousands of years. So that is ingrained into us. So we have to understand that part of us as well, right? So we have these beliefs, these fears, these labels that people put onto us from a young little child, and we have these mirroring neurons that allow us to copy other people's behaviors, act like them, be like them, so we can learn how to function in this world. And then eventually that kind of creates your sense of self. All right. So you took all your parents, all your societies, your cultures, baggage, positive and negative, right? Like it's like that video where, there's a dirty cup of water and multiple other clean cups, and you're dumping it and dumping it and dumping it and dumping it. And eventually at the end, it gets cleared out and filtered. And that's the whole idea of like ending generational trauma and all that stuff there, right? Is like healing yourself, healing your family roots, whatever it may be. So up until the age of 7, your mind is open. You're like a sponge. You're absorbing the world, understanding who you are, your sense of self. Then that kind of creates a solid sense of self. It kind of creates the ego, who you are. Okay. And then this is where this part starts to take over. So now that you have the sense of self, your ego, and your identity, the brain's job, because most of us live in this animal mind because the kind of masculine push of energy in this world and how we're taught and brought up and just how we are and have been, this then shapes how we go out and again perceive our world, what to focus on, how do we define events, and the meaning we give to situations. For example, when I say meaning to that we give to situations, death. I think death is a learned behavior to be sad because if you look at little tiny kids when they're at a funeral, they don't know what's going on. They're playing. They understand that they're gone and passed away, but they're still happy and joyful, but then they see their parents are super upset and sad, so they learn that behavior as well. Death must mean sadness. So it's a learned behavior. But other cultures celebrate death, right? If you believe that we are all one and connected and that this illusion of separation, all that stuff, then it won't really hurt as bad because you can see beyond it, right? So keep with me here. Keep up with me here. We're on a roll. I had a lot of coffee before this training. So your beliefs, your ego, your identity, up until the age of 7, you create the sense of self, and then that's how you perceive the world. Neuroscience shows that your brain filters, so you are creating your own personal reality. You might see one personal reality, and then your best friend right beside you might see a total, complete, different personal reality. And that is how you perceive things, how you see situations. It's like that picture where there's a guy who he's holding the peace sign, but see how like I don't know if you can see right now, but it looks like I'm holding the middle finger up. But if I just turn to the side, I'm showing the peace sign. And that is perspective. But your perspective is shaped through your core beliefs. So your brain, what we know about with neuroscience is that your brain literally filters out what does not serve its core beliefs. Your brain lies to you and it'll filter it in. This is why, like, for example, if you ever buy a new car before you didn't see it anywhere, and then it's like now everyone and their dog has that same car. And it's like, what the heck's going on? I want this car because it's maybe different. But now I see it everywhere. Right? The more you think about it, the more you want it, the more you attract it. Like for me, it's Mustangs. I'm seeing Mustangs all over the place now. And it's like, wow, what the heck's going on? Right? I thought nobody had a Mustang before. So that's how powerful your brain is. That is how powerful your brain is. Okay. And then what we do, because we live in this animalistic state, right, and this fear and survival, is we want predictability. So we're not going out the flow. We're not allowing things. We want control. And one thing to know is, let me make some space here in this mess. One thing to know, the only way for your ego, right? The ego is like the glue to your book. If you didn't have an ego, you'd be all over the place. So you do need an ego. But most of us, we let our egos run the show, and it takes control over us when it shouldn't. The ego can only survive in your past. So it has to hold on to this idea, this sense of self, right? And then it's trying to control the future, it's trying to predict the future. It does not exist in the present moment, in the here and now. That's why when you're having so much fun, you feel like time is flying by. You're so in the moment. You're not holding on to any ideas of yourself. You're not worrying about yourself. You're fully embodied, fully in the moment being. One of the best feelings in the world, right? So this ego, though, it only exists basically in the mind, in the past, or the future. Problem is, though, is that our brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So if we're always in our mind thinking about this person who we need to be and this mask that we got to wear, we're always worried about it, right? We're feeling and experiencing that in real time, and it becomes literally embodied into your nervous system. And that way, your nervous system, as an animal, it goes out and tries to match and consistently stay in that state as well. Crazy stuff. So, anyways, back to the program though. So, your ego will only exist in the past and the future. So, it happens that your mind will then, instead of tapping into the higher mind, right? The intuition, the flow, following your love and your joy, your passion, your gut feelings, your synchronicities, alignment, all those beautiful, beautiful pieces and power that you have, that all the successful people that you look up to all have tapped into if they were self-made. The problem is that we can't tap into that because we're coming from a control standpoint. We're coming from control. We need to control the future. So what we do then is when we try to change our lives, we're always looking for the external world to give us validation because validation means safety, right? I need to look to the external world to make sure that I prove this story right. Because if the story at the program isn't getting proven right, that's scary. That's dangerous. That's not good. I don't like that. So we let the external world continuously tell us who we are over and over and over again. And that's why I always say that you need to be delusional, change your life, because if you keep looking to the external world to tell you who you are, you'll never really know who you are. You'll just be controlled the entire time. You'll just stay stuck the entire time. You need to decide who you are and become, change those beliefs, and then your external world will eventually reflect that in time. But you can't do that if you're stuck in the animal mind. Because when you want to make that change, when you stop telling the external world who you are, when you stop letting the external world tell you who you are, that's when you have to let go of the how or when. That's when you have to let go of control. That's when you got to stop worrying. You got to stop having that anxiety. And that's one of the hardest things for people to do is to fully trust. But here's the thing about trust is that trust, you don't lack trust. You put your trust in one bucket or another. You either trust in things working out for you, and when you believe that, you will go find it, and guess what? Things will work out for you. Or you trust that things will not work out for you. Tap into that animal brain, that old programming. And guess what? That will come true too. Ah, see, I told you so. Things never work out for me. I'm so unlucky. And then that person always becomes unlucky, right? It's like, wow, you're really good at manifesting. Key thing here, we're always manifesting. So that is how the animal brain kind of runs the show and it takes control. I hope you're really able to absorb that there. So you're always, when you go out into your world, you're always looking for validation and proof that reinforces those old animalistic belief systems, and that's where like the hierarchy mind comes in and a lot of suffering because it's like, okay, well, I'm never good enough. This person's always better than me. And where do I fit in the pedestal? And just makes you super insecure. Trust me, I've dealt with this for a long time in my life before I was really able to make these changes happen. And ever since I did make those changes happen, I've never felt better in my entire freaking life. So that is the animal mind. Now, how do we tap into the higher mind? Okay, so how the higher mind works is basically as so. So, what we know about our brain and how we function is that, and I go over this a lot as well, but I'm just going to quickly cover it as well because it's a part of the process. Okay, so how this works, okay? So your higher mind wants you to follow flow, right? Intuition, your love, your joy, and it needs you to let go, just in general, let go, right? Surrender experiment, but let go of how or when. Now you might be asking, why do I need to let go of how or when? Well, I just explained it for the most part. Another reason though is because remember this is that when you're trying to control the how or when, you're only able to control that from the limited beliefs that you currently have. Here's what I mean. when you visualize the goals and the major success that you want in your life, you're only able to visualize and really conceptualize an image of what you truly believe you can do. That's what I find. But the problem with that is oftentimes we are limited with those beliefs, right? And our viewpoints are constricted. For example, someone who, let's say someone, if they followed their absolute love and joy, they let go of the how or when, they became a billionaire. But let's say they started out from an extremely poor family. So they couldn't even imagine themselves as a billionaire. It's not even in their reality, right? Their beliefs cannot handle that yet. So they allow that control part of them to always control that of like, well, I don't know, this is where I'm at, so I might be able to be making this much, but probably not that much, right? So oftentimes you got to let go of the how or when and control what you can control. One of the biggest keys. So higher mind wants you to follow the flow, the intuition, the love, the joy. That's kind of like the universe's language, your soul's language to you. Those inner poles, right? So here's how the brain works when it comes to this. All right, so we have our core belief systems. Core belief systems are producing overall how you feel and overall how you think as well, most of the thoughts that you have. Now, those over time, thoughts and emotions held over time, create the identity, the sense of self. Because remember, your brain doesn't know if it's imagining or experiencing it. So the more you think about something, you're eventually going to convince yourself it's real, right? That's how a belief is formed. You think and think and think and think and think until you start to find evidence for it. You start to believe in it, and then boom, right? But remember, beliefs are not solid. So, and then identity influences behaviors, which means it influences your overall consistent actions long term. Long term. And then actions produce results in life, right? Results is what causes the changes in your external world, right? Actions are needed to make physical changes. So that's how that works. Now, the idea behind tapping into the higher mind is that you need to let go of the fears and the limiting beliefs that are connected to your animal brain slash your 7-year old self. You need to let go of these. This is where you need to let go of who you've been so you can step into who you're meant to be. So, for example, limiting beliefs is like low self worth, is like, money is hard or evil, right? Success is evil. Um, I'm not good enough. Um, I don't have enough. Because remember, you only have those beliefs because of what you've been programmed. So don't take it personal. It's not your fault. You only have these limiting beliefs about yourself because that's what's been programmed into you. And you're so bought into that story. We all are. We all are bought into our personal stories. And that's where the ego grips onto it. And it's like, Caden, you're saying something conflicting that's really messing with my belief system right now. I don't like this because that means I'm going to enter into the unknown. And that's scary. It's okay. You are safe. And that's why a huge part of this is connected to the nervous system. I calling it tame the animal within. So if you want to connect to your higher mind, the first thing that you want to do is you got to get your body and you got to get your animal self to a safe place. Easiest way to do that is through breath work, meditation, understanding how the nervous system works, stress triggers. Tap into that, study that field there to really learn how to tame the animal mind, the animal self. Because once that part of you is safe, then creative thought comes back. Then you can start to expand and truly transform. But when the animal is scared, they don't care about growing or changing. They just want everything to be okay, right? They're panicking, trying to control everything. They're all over the place. They're scattered brained. So tame the animal within, tame yourself, get the nervous system on track. And guess what? This is where the idea of meta thinking comes into play. So I think it's psychologists, I think it is, or whatever. They did a study, and basically the smartest people are the ones who are meta thinkers. Meta thinkers are the ones who are able to disconnect themselves from the thoughts that they have when they can observe versus react. You know, you get honked at in traffic, you instantly flip them off, you're reacting like an animal, right? But what we should really do is we should observe it. Someone flips you off in traffic, hey, take a breath. It's not the end of the world. You might feel like a threat. Breathe. It's all right. You don't really know their story, right? Bless them and move on. Really does not matter. So meta thinking can only happen right when you are observing the thoughts you have. You can correct yourself in real time so you can change your mind and grow. That can only happen when you're in a constant safe place, because if you're not in a safe state, then your brain wants to protect all the thoughts. It doesn't want to break those thought patterns. It doesn't want to be proven wrong. That's the ego, right? Because that is not safe and secure. So we need to get safe. We need to get into that safe state, and then we can practice that. Meditation, for example. Meditation helps you realize that you are not your thoughts. You're the one observing your thoughts. So that's where meta thinking comes into play. And again, that allows you to dissect and work through the limitations within your mind that were programmed into you growing up. So limiting beliefs, for example, low self-worth. That might be true to you personally, but the whole world doesn't agree upon that. That is not rooted in facts. Therefore, it is not actually universally true. So that means that you can actually change it. So then the idea becomes, why would you want to hold on to a story that does not serve you, that you're not worthy? The only reason why your brain would choose to do that, the only reason why we choose to do that is because we believe that is best for us. That's it. The brain will only believe and do what it believes is best for us, the path of least resistance. So if that's what you were taught growing up, then that's what you're going to keep finding over and over and over again, because that's the path of least resistance. But you see how crappy that is, because then you're not going to feel good. You're going to put yourself on the back burner. You're not going to value yourself, invest into yourself to really grow and change. Poor you. That's not good, right? We don't want that. So the universal truth then, well, I mean, a better truth than that and a better belief is that you are beyond worthy. You are so worthy. Gosh, that feels good, right? That feels expanded. Key word. You'll notice, okay, the easiest way to do this when it comes to your fears and beliefs is literally write down on a list, okay, all the beliefs. So all the beliefs and the fears that you have, and then just ask yourself, are these expanding me, or do they constrict me? For example, if you're sad and unhappy, does it help you to change if you want to change? Does it help you to believe that you're broken and that you'll never be able to get over it? No. That story only serves the belief system that wants to keep you stuck. This is where you need to separate yourself from it. This is where you need to separate yourself from and realize that, hey, I am more than this. I understand this is a story that I've been playing out, but I don't want this story anymore. So what does the version of me who does not suffer anymore, the version of me who is so happy and fulfilled, what do they think and feel? That's tapping into your higher mind, by the way. And then you step into that and you act and you be like them. And I promise you, you can change if you stick with this over time. You are beyond powerful, beyond your imagination. So ask yourself, does this belief or this thought I have of myself, does this expand me or does this constrict me? And just keep plucking away at them. So for example, money is hard, money is evil. We're brought up to believe that a lot of the time. Is that universally true? No. Guess what? Money is a form of energy. It's a tool. It amplifies who you already are. It amplifies who you already are. So it's not universally true. So if you want to make more money, well, you can't hate it, because if you hate something, you're going to push it away, right? You won't even look for it in your external world. So that's another belief we can change. I don't have enough. Is that universally true? Maybe personally to you, but is that universally true? No. Look around you. There's water falling from the sky if you live in this section of the world, in the Western world and stuff, right? And the point here, the point here is dissect, because remember, beliefs are not solidified. So, for example, someone's like, well, I want to change my life. I want to change my life. I want to get out of this job, but I just don't have enough money right now to do it. The second that you say that, the story ends. You cannot actually go and change your life because you're not even going to think about ways to, because that limiting belief is blocking your growth. It's blocking your power. It's saying, oh, okay, you know what we're going to do? It's like this. It's like your power, right? So this is like expanded, okay? And then as in like here, this is constricted. So expanded is you expand, constricted is you constrict, right? Okay, well, I just don't have enough to change my life. Okay, we're choosing to be constricted, to not expand and change. Okay, I've always have enough. I am in pure abundance. I have more than enough. Every time I step into a new situation, I always have exactly what I need in that exact moment. Wow, that's so much more freeing. That's so much more expanding. That feels so much better, right? So that is where you can tap into more of your power. Now, I have a meeting coming up in 3 minutes here, guys. So I'm going to end this off here. So the higher mind, going back into it, the higher mind, you can really tap into your higher mind once you can get the animal brain, animal self under control. Get it into a safe state, get into a safe place where you're safe and you're secure. Then separate yourself from who you've been. Say, I'm going to become the student of my life. I'm willing to let go of all the beliefs and fears and limitations that I have if it means that I get to expand, grow, and become better. Literally put that out there. And then start to reflect, start to observe yourself, start to practice not reacting so much to life in this consistent story, and build that filter and decide who you want to be and start focusing on that. And then when resistance pops up in your life, dissect it. Don't react to it. Don't sell back into the old story. Look at those negative thoughts you have, those negative feelings from an outside perspective and say, what would I have to believe to be true about myself for me to be feeling this way right now? What do I have to believe or what do I have to be scared of for me to be thinking this way right now about the situation? Because this doesn't help me. This doesn't help me expand. This makes me feel bad. And I promise you, as you do that, you'll build more of a connection with that higher mind. The last thing is follow more of your intuition. Follow your passions. Follow your joys without expectation. Let go of the how. Let go of the when. Know that you're always supported. Again, that's a belief, right? You see how much more fulfilling and freeing that perspective is. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all a choice because I can break it down in science as well for you as much as possible. At the end of the day, you have to choose to step into the unknown, to let go of who you've been so you can become who you're meant to be. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I might do a part two if it's helpful. Let me know down below in the comments if you want a part two on this. But I appreciate you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next training.